Hello to everyone gathered at the National Academy of Social Insurance's Robert M. Ball Award ceremony. I wish I could be there with all of you tonight to celebrate the incredible career of my mentor and friend, Professor Ted Marmor. Every year, the Robert M. Ball Award is given to someone whose work has made a significant impact on the U.S. social insurance system. So I want to commend you tonight for choosing to honor a critical voice in the debate surrounding healthcare reform, Medicare, and Social Security, Yale's own Professor Ted Marmor. I first met Ted when I was at Yale and took his class, The Politics of Medicare, which explained how a major piece of legislation that had initially been so controversial, sound familiar? Ultimately received the bipartisan support of 68 senators when it passed in 1965. Maybe I used that story and those teachings a little bit in the debate over the Affordable Care Act. Well, we also tried to better understand how those involved in politics made compromises, something I also try to use in my day-to-day life. I was fascinated to learn at the time about how the American Medical Association eventually came to support Medicare, despite vehement early opposition to the program. And finally, we talked a lot about how Medicare was actually implemented after the bill passed. So I have just taken all of those messages and put them in my head and used them a lot. So the following year after I took Ted's class, he took my friend Matt Hamill, who I believe is in the audience tonight, and me under his wing. We had our senior essays to write. Some people just cram and do it at the end. Well, Ted took it on as a major moment to teach. On Sunday evenings, he conducted weekly tutorial sessions with just the two of us, sitting in these wing-back chairs set around the fireplace in his campus home. We discussed the senior essays Matt and I were both writing. Both of us, as a result, felt a deep sense of purpose about our essays. We never missed a session, especially since Professor Marmor's advice would always be accompanied by a really good glass of red wine, and we thought we were pretty cool in those chairs with the wine. Our subjects were not exactly a matched pair. Matt's thesis was about the Swedish healthcare system. Mine was about the politics behind the building of the Hubert H. Humphrey Metrodome, the old professional sports stadium in Minnesota that had that puffy roof. Maybe you remember that it collapsed over and over again, including when I was writing the senior essay. But for both of us, the essays were life-changing. During our senior year, Ted recommended Matt for a Fulbright scholarship to study the health system in Sweden. Matt won the scholarship and spent a year in Sweden and took enough time away from his studies to meet his Swedish wife, Lena. That's pretty romantic, Ted. For me, the senior essay was life-changing in a different way. It might not have been as romantic, but it brought together so many things in my life. My deep interest in the academics, how I applied that learning to real-world political examples, my love of my home state and its politics, and of course, my dad had covered the Vikings his whole life, wrote a book called Will the Vikings Ever Win the Super Bowl in the early 80s, which is sadly still relevant today, and there was that too. So maybe that's why my vision of the essay grew more ambitious by the day, and Ted was just all okay with it. Originally, I thought I would write a 30-page paper, but in the end, it topped 200 pages, 215 to be exact, and it was at the beginning of computers, and I would walk every day to the Yale Computer Lab, the only non-computer geek in there, learned how to do all those things. It took me days so I could type the senior essay, and some guy in the headquarters, for a joke they controlled it centrally, kept turning my computer screen upside down. That happened to me, but I got them. I learned it so well that I got to type senior essays for many Yale students at $1 a page when I finished mine. So later, my essay would be published as a book called Uncovering the Dome. And I can tell you, it would have never happened without those Sunday night sessions with Ted peppering me with questions, suggesting different inquiries, guiding me to success, making the case that Graham Allison's The Cuban Missile Crisis book actually was relevant to the building of a domed football stadium in Minnesota. But that's not all Ted has helped me with over the years. When I went to the University of Chicago Law School, I rented an apartment in a brownstone in Hyde Park that Ted still had from his early days in his career teaching there. Without the financial aid, the scholarships, and the student loans, not to mention the great room rate from my Yale mentor, Ted, I don't think I'd be where I am today. Ted has this incredible strength and also incredible pride in his students. My last story, the day he comes in, my first elected office, and the first woman DA in our biggest county. I have this great old wooden office with all these books everywhere. He walks in, what do you think he says? "Where's your book? Where's Uncovering the Dome? That's the greatest accomplishment of your life." And it was there on the shelf. But then I said, "Ted, I did get elected to this big office." You know what? He was right. Those early days, having someone believe in me, that was the greatest accomplishment. That led to other accomplishments. So Ted, thank you for your support and your guidance, not just for me, but for all those students, your love of learning, your zest for life. Congratulations on this well-deserved award. Enjoy the rest of the event. You have certainly earned it.